I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Monroe County Planning Commission. It is Thursday, October 23rd. And if you could call the roll, please.
Sure. David Bush.
Here.
Margaret Clements. Tron Enright Randolph.
Here.
Scott Ferris.
Here.
Rudy Fields.
Here.
David Henry.
Here.
Jeff Morris. Julie Thomas.
Here.
Joe Van Deventer. Okay, so we have 6 members attending and a quorum.
All right, thank you so much. And we'd like to move on to introduction of evidence, please.
I'd like to introduce the following items into the evidence: the Monroe County Development Ordinance as adopted and amended, the Monroe County Zoning Ordinance and Subdivision Control Ordinance as adopted and amended, the Monroe County Comprehensive Plan as adopted and amended, the Monroe County Plan Commission Rules of Procedure as adopted and amended, and the cases that were legally advertised and scheduled for a hearing on tonight's agenda.
Okay, thank you so much. Could I have a motion, please?
So moved for adoption.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to approve the introduction of evidence. A vote yes is a vote to approve. Tron Enright Randolph.
Yes.
Scott Ferris.
Yes.
Rudy Fields.
Yes.
David Henry.
Yes.
Julie Thomas.
Yes.
David Bush.
Yes.
Motion is approved, 6-0.
So much. And now I will entertain a motion for approval of the agenda.
I do have one change to the agenda. There has been a recognition that the Bell Vista Section 3 petition, there was not a proper notice sent out for that one. So we do have to recommend its continuance to our November meeting, which will be November 18th.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the agenda and continue item 8 SPP-25-2 to our November 8th meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second, and I will note for anyone who's watching or here in person that on this agenda are a number of items that have been continued. All 3 items related to Holland Fields and Holland 3 lot minor subdivision have been continued, as has under new business SIA 21-7.
So it's been moved and seconded, and I'll just correct the date, I apologize. It's been moved and seconded to amend the agenda to continue SPP-25-2, the Bell Vista Section 3 Primary Plat Amendment for Sidewalk and Street Tree Waiver. It's been requested to be continued to the November 20th Plan Commission meeting. A vote yes is a vote to continue it to November 20th.
Do I have to still accept that? No? Okay.
Scott Ferris?
Yes.
Rudy Fields?
Yes.
David Henry?
Yes.
Julie Thomas?
Yes.
David Bush?
Yes.
Tron Enright Randolph?
Yes.
Motion is approved, 6-0.
All right, thank you so much. And now we can entertain a motion for approval of minutes. There are 2 sets of minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes for September 2nd and also September 25th. Seconded.
Great, we have a motion and we have a second. Any comments, edits, corrections that haven't already been sent?
Yes, we'll need the entire commission to vote in favor, since we are just at majority.
We have a 6 online.
Oh, there is a 6 online. I'm sorry, Mr. Henry.
All right, if you could call the roll, please, on this item.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve September 2nd and September 25th, 2025 meeting minutes. A vote yes is a vote to approve both sets of minutes. Rudy Fields?
Yes.
David Henry?
Yes.
Julie Thomas?
Yes.
David Bush,
Yes.
Trona Henry Randolph,
It shows I was absent on the September, but I did watch the CATS recording, so I'll vote yes.
Pat Ferris.
Yes.
Motion is approved, 6-0.
Thank you so much. We have some administrative business, if you would, please.
Yes, just a report for the CDO amendment prioritization list. We have not seen a substantial change to this list since June of this year. However, 2 items on your agenda tonight we will touch on are part of that prioritization list. So if recommended for approval or a recommended positive recommendation to the county commissioners and those are adopted or changes are made, we would update that prioritization list accordingly.
So much. Anybody have comments or questions for staff? Okay, great. Thank you so much. We will now move way down on the agenda. Look at how quickly we get things done. To item 2 under new business, SMN 25-1, the Peach Minor Subdivision Preliminary Plat Amendment 1 with a road width waiver. This is a preliminary hearing, and they've asked for a waiver of final hearing.
All right, so I'm going to present this for Drew Myers this evening. This is 2 parcels. It's 57.74 acres in Beam Blossom Township, Section 12 at 9175 North Mount Pleasant Road. And the owners, Richard Brown and Kimberly Gladys. All right. So the request is for a primary plat amendment to the Peach Minor Subdivision. They are going to subdivide Lot 3, which is 57.74 acres, to create a new lot, which is 10.01 acres. The CDO says that a minor subdivision can create up to 4 lots. And so the Peach Minor initially has created 3 lots already. They can add this 4th one during a primary plat amendment process. So the proposed Lot 3A will contain 45.66 acres and has existing access to North Mount Pleasant Road. And the proposed Lot 4A will contain 10.01 acres with proposed access to West Brown Road. The petition includes a road width waiver request. West Brown Road measures only 13 feet in width, and the CDO requires 18 feet for a subdivision. So here's the location here in Beam Blossom Township. The primary plat amendment is here on the right, so you can see Lot 3A is the larger one, which has an existing home and some outbuildings, and then Lot 4A is going to have a proposed home and septic system shown there on the plat. This is it kind of shown up a little bit further. You have West Brown Road along the top there, which is only 13 feet wide, and then down along the eastern property line is North Mount Pleasant Road. Something to know is that this access point for Lot 4A is not 200 feet wide at the road, where it touches the road. It does not reach that 200 feet wide until it gets to here. So this is sort of a pole for a flag lot and is not considered buildable, but they do have plenty of buildable area. And this is kind of the lower half of the plat. You can see that there are drainage easements that have been included, and the southern part of the lot here, Lot 3A, with more riparian area and drainage easements. So there is a summary table in the packet that describes the statistics of Lot 3A and Lot 4A and the buildable area that they're going to have. Staff confirmed that they do have appropriate septic permits on file. And we looked at their roadway access. Right-of-way dedication is already dedicated out here. We confirmed environmental conditions and existing structures. And then when we were starting to look at road width, that's when we noticed that West Brown Road did not meet the road width requirement. Sidewalks are not required out here. We do have capacity letters, and street trees. They do have a preservation area of 1.03 acres. And this is the street tree preservation area. It kind of overlaps between the two lots, sort of straddles the boundary line between the properties. So this is the original plat here, Lot 1, Lot 2, and then this is Lot 3 across the street, and this is the one that they're subdividing and doing the amendment for. So the staff recommendation is interesting because, well, let's just go over the plat committee. The plat committee met on April 21st, 2025, and forwarded a positive recommendation to approve the primary plat and road width waiver with a vote of 4-0. And staff had recommended 3 conditions of approval, and the 4th condition had been added by the plat committee. All of those have been completed at this point in time, and so really the recommendation is to approve the subdivision based on the findings that the proposed primary plat meets the county development ordinance, subject to the highway engineer and stormwater program manager reports, and to also approve the road width waiver, citing practical difficulties have been demonstrated with no conditions. Any questions?
Thank you so much. Anyone to my left have a question for staff? To my right? Online? I don't see a hand raised. Okay, well, I actually have a question which is related to Lot 3A, because under Lot 3A on the graphic on page 9 of our packet, it says existing undocumented septic, secondary permit, and then it has a number.
So I'm thinking that's secondary septic here and an existing septic on this one. Is that the graphic?
It's in the table on page 9.
Right, okay. So it took a while, if I recall, they have a septic. We didn't have a good permit that went with it, if I recall, and so we had them.
Because it's older.
Yes.
Got it.
And during their first subdivision, we did make them pull a septic permit.
Got it.
And so we were using that one as the secondary site and not having them upgrade their septic just because they were subdividing, but should it fail, they do have a secondary location.
Perfect. Got it. That's what I thought, but I wanted to be sure. Thank you so much. All right. So now we will hear from the petitioner or the petitioner's representative. You may come forward in the Nat U Hill room or raise your hand on Teams to be recognized. Sir, did you want to step up to the podium, please? If you could please give us your name.
It's Richard Brown.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brown. Thank you for being here. Did you have anything you wanted to add about this petition?
No, I think we tried to get everything that they requested.
Sounds good.
Does anybody have questions for the petitioner from my right? Online?
There is a Matt Lowers. Is he part of your?
That's our son. He's the one buying the smaller lot, or
Okay,
getting the
great.
smaller lot.
I will call on him. Did anybody have questions for these petitioners? Okay. So we have somebody online whose hand was raised. We could hear from them.
Looks like their hand is down now.
Oh,
Yep, I was just going to stand in if they didn't, so I'm just here for support.
okay, great. Thank you so much. Good. All right. Okay. All right, thank you. We'll now open this up for public comments, see if anyone wishes to speak in favor of this petition. You may raise your hand on Teams to be recognized, or come to the podium here in the Nat U Hill Room. I don't see any hands raised on Teams. Anyone wish to speak in opposition to this petition? Please come to the podium in the Nat U Hill Room or raise your hand on Teams to be recognized. Anyone on the board to my right or left or online have further comments before we get a motion? Okay. Somebody like to make a motion? Please.
I move with respect to case number SM November 25-1, which is the Peach Minor Primary Plat Amendment 1. The motion approve. One is approve the subdivision based on the finding that the proposed primary plat meets the CDO and is subject to the highway engineer and stormwater program manager reports. That's one. And also to approve the road width waiver request citing practical difficulties have been demonstrated. And as mentioned by the staff, the 4 conditions, all of which have been completed.
Great, thank you.
And also a waiver of the final hearing.
Okay, great, thank you so much. We have a motion? Is there a second? Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. All right, we have a motion and we have a second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve both the subdivision as well as the road width waiver and also the waiver of final hearing. A vote yes is a vote to approve. David Henry?
Yes.
Julie Thomas?
Yes.
David Bush?
Yes.
Tron Enright Randolph?
Yes.
Scott Ferris?
Yes.
Rudy Fields?
Yes.
Motion is approved, 6-0.
Thank you so much. Next, we have agenda item SMN 25-3, the John R. and Mary Deckard Minor Subdivision Primary Plat Amendment 2, sidewalk and street tree waiver requested. This is a preliminary hearing. The waiver of the final hearing has also been requested. Staff, please.
Yep. Again, I'm going to cover for Drew on this one. This is 2 parcels on 64.78 acres in Richland Township, Section 23 at 3805 West Walcott Lane. The owners are Stephen Deckard Irrevocable Living Trust, zoned AGR or AGR. So this is a primary plat amendment to the John R. and Mary Deckard Minor Subdivision. It is to subdivide existing Tract 2, which is 64.78 acres, to create a new lot, which will be 32.14 acres. The CDO says a minor subdivision can create up to 4 lots, so this subdivision is bringing it up to 3. The subdivision initially had created 2 lots, and so this third one is allowed via the primary plat amendment process. The proposed Tract 2 will contain 32.64 acres with existing access to West Walcott Lane. Proposed Tract 3 will contain 32.14 acres and will also have access to West Walcott Lane. The petition includes a sidewalk waiver request and a street tree waiver request. The proposed subdivision is within the urban area boundary as defined in the CDO. So this is the location. It's pretty close to West Woodyard Road and Hart Strait Road. There was up here in this corner here is the original Lot 1. Lot 2 is this one here, and then they're subdividing it through the middle, kind of with this L shape. Things that you'll notice is that there is an easement that cuts through the property to access the subdivision to the south. And there is a special flood hazard area and a drainage easement that comes through here, and also a riparian area. Both of these lots are essentially vacant. There is, I think, one ag structure on the property. More of a close-up of the easement that comes through to service the subdivision to the south. This is the summary table here. So again, we've got a summary of Tract 2 and Tract 3, their acreage. We do have wastewater septic permit on file for these. The property access will, there's an existing driveway for Tract 2, and then we have a new driveway access for Lot 3 under right-of-way permit, RW 24-314. Right-of-way dedication, it's already occurred, but we're confirming it. And then there are some DNR floodplains and some slopes that are greater than 25%. The local road, it is 19 feet wide, so we're good on that. It does encompass part of the urban service boundary, which will require the sidewalks. We do have capacity letters for electric and water, and then there are 32 street trees required. And they are asking for a waiver request from both sidewalk and street tree waivers. So this is the urban service boundary. Did I say that correct? Yes. And it does encompass this Walcott Lane up here, which does require then that we look at it for this possibility of sidewalks or alternative transportation incorporation. And then we also have on the plat, well, we had the petitioner include some of the existing trees that are on the property. There are 40 existing trees, and there are images of those here on the bottom of the picture. And then there was a discussion at the plat committee regarding for the sidewalk waiver, potentially adding additional easement to accommodate that. So we have a local road urban design, which does incorporate a sidewalk and kind of a curb and gutter, like roll curb. And we also have the local road rural, which is more of a 60-foot right-of-way dedication. And right now we have a 25-foot right-of-way dedication here, and that's what is required. Should you want to do an additional 5 or 10 feet. One thing to keep in mind is that we do have street trees down here that we could potentially count towards that street tree requirement, even though they are asking to waive those. Also, I think that sometimes the highway department doesn't always want to be responsible for the street trees, and our ordinance in the subdivision doesn't allow us to count trees in the right-of-way towards that requirement. So we would need to come up with a different solution, I think, for the street trees if additional right-of-way easement would be dedicated to encompass a future alternative transportation plan, like sidewalks or a side path. And then kind of looking at, this is West Walcott Lane here in turquoise running east-west. This is that access easement we did during the first amendment. We relocated the driveway, so this driveway is not valid anymore. It was in the floodplain. We scooted it over to be outside of the special flood hazard area. But this stretch could have alternative transportation along it to connect to the Karst Farm Greenway, which is 110 feet away. And there is not, I'm not sure how the easement would work there. The creek runs this way, and then I'll point out that we do have FEMA floodway. To get a permit for this, you would have to get a state permit and a local flood permit, and then also prove that your project creates a no-rise scenario. That does get kind of expensive. So that's something to also take into consideration if you want to decide to support the sidewalk waiver and street tree waiver and extra dedication of right-of-way. Would the county ever want to put a sidewalk here? So we do have the sidewalk waiver findings of fact in the packet for both the sidewalk and the street trees. I touched on a lot of those, so I'm not going to go over them here. And then this is the final plat amendment 1. This is where we altered the road access and added the easement. And then we do have our recommendation for SMN-25-3. So staff, well, let's see. We do have a plat committee. Let's see, plat committee met October 16th and voted 5-0 for a positive recommendation to the Plan Commission to approve the subdivision, approve the sidewalk waiver, and deny the street tree waiver as recommended above. The plat committee directed staff to converse with the petitioner about the receptivity to requesting the incorporation of an access easement along West Walcott Lane that would ultimately serve as the location for the multi-use path to improve pedestrian access to the Cars Farm Greenway. And then staff recommends approval of the subdivision based on the findings that the proposed primary plat meets the CDO and subject to highway engineer and stormwater program manager reports. Also recommending approval of the sidewalk waiver, citing practical difficulties have been demonstrated. And then also to deny the street tree waiver request. Preservation of existing trees can satisfy the requirements of Chapter 832-14C and can be shown on the primary plat. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you so much. Any questions from my right?
Necessarily a question, but
Staff? Question for staff?
more, I guess, discussion from the plat committee and how that precipitated.
Sure.
Sure, okay. So just based off the location to a built trail network, which will probably serve as one of our main backbones to our trail network in the county that creates connectivity to the city and the town, maybe even beyond. But I guess I kind of brought that topic up because I'm very active in some of our trail projects. If that's even something that should be continued to be discussed, I would say that we should probably bring this back to the administrative meeting. Due to the plat committee meeting being canceled, we kind of got not necessarily out of order, but usually we could have had this discussion at the plat committee and then at the admin meeting. So it's just kind of, how are we going to talk about these more rural areas and still be able to have access to continue our trail network, or maybe at one point build sidewalks? I was pretty kind of amenable to kind of going ahead and supporting this, and the practical difficulties of having to relocate the street trees to meet that requirement is one thing that kind of was 50-50 for at least for my position. So I'm fine with supporting this as is, but I'm also fine with bringing this back and discussing how can we really look at retaining clean easements to expand our network in the future. I don't think by any means the property owner should go ahead and take on the cost of building out the trail or a sidewalk at this point, because the connectivity is very limited. But in 10, 20 years, one of the most difficult things we encounter with expanding our network is having a clean easement. So that's what kind of precipitated that discussion. I just wanted to bring a little more context to that. And again, I'll kind of defer to the rest of the Plan Commission of the direction they want to go. So, but I don't think we could kind of, I would recommend, let's not try to dice this out at today's meeting if it's even a consideration.
Did you have any questions, Mr. Henry? Councilmember Henry?
I do not.
Okay. Any questions for staff from my left? Okay. Thank you so much. Now we can hear from the petitioner or petitioner's representative. Please come to the podium here in the Nat U Hill room, or you can raise your hand on Teams to be recognized. There is a hand raised.
Deckard.
You will need to unmute.
I'm muted. I'm there.
All right. Thank you. Did you have any comments you wanted to make on this petition or anything you want us to know?
No comments. I'm not opposed to maybe a 10-foot easement. I know that the embankment between Walcott Lane and the property is probably a 75-degree angle and 8 feet tall. So to get a sidewalk there would be a lot of grading. But we'll go from there. The street trees along there are like eastern cedars and almost fully grown. So to remove those would be sad, so to speak. I'm sure the other neighbors wouldn't like it. I have no other comments other than, do you have questions for me?
Thank you so much. Any comments or questions for the petitioner from my left? Please.
One comment. I was in the plat committee with John in that discussion, and I believe that, under the current book of words, that they hit all the spots they need to hit. And to ask them to do something else is exactly that. If you want to ask them about it, cool. But I just wouldn't want anybody to ask someone in a way that says, well, we didn't do this, so we did that. I think there is in my view, I believe that these folks are, and based on the practical difficulties of things they've talked about tonight, that waiver section needs to be deleted and approved as is.
Okay. Thank you so much. Are you talking about the sidewalk waiver?
Yes, all the approval, the sections that are marked for approval and the denial, which works in their benefit too.
Okay.
I think those are all things I support.
Great. Thank you. Mr. Bush?
Yeah, I was on the plat committee and was supportive of Tron's discussion, and when the idea of consideration of an easement was brought forward, I thought it was a good idea. I still think it's a good idea. I will not hold up this this petition because of that, but I think that is something in the future we want to probably bring back to an admin meeting and tackle long-term, how we're going to try to preserve accessibility to the trails. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any comments or questions for the petitioner from Mr. Henry?
None, thank you.
Anyone to my right have a question or comment for petitioner? No? Okay. Great. So we will now move on to public comment. If anybody would like to speak in favor of this petition, you may come up to the podium here in the Nat U Hill room, or you may raise your hand on Teams and to be recognized to speak. Seeing no one, does anyone wish to speak in opposition to this petition? Again, you may raise your hand on Teams to be recognized or come to the podium here in the Nat U Hill room. Seeing none, we'll come back to the board for comments before a motion. Anyone to my right have a comment?
Just, I don't like kind of looking at a petition kind of as it's moving forward. I like kind of having those larger discussions and kind of having kind of some predictability and where it's applied across the board. So I guess I'm looking to support this as is today, but I do think it's a very important conversation to have about how we can secure easements, or at one point when we want to build sidewalks to create, connectivity that's contiguous. At some point, we're going to have to decide to do that, and over time, it will create that contiguous connectivity that I think we're looking for. But like I said, I rather address that so it's more applied across the board versus case by case.
comments? Mr. Ferris? Any comments from Councilmember Henry?
None at all, thank you.
Okay. Any comments from my left? No? I have a comment, which is that while I understand the desirability to create sidewalks to connect to trails, there are a couple of key issues with the lay of the land here. And I think that the way that the staff has organized the approvals and denials works in the favor of the petitioner and doesn't require the petitioner to try to overcome issues relating to floodplain and or deep ditches. And if we insisted on that easement, then we would have to revisit the street tree question. And I'm not sure that that's fair to the petitioner at this moment either. So I do support it as it is. And with that, we could see if anyone here would like to make a motion. Please.
With respect to case number Sierra Mike November 25-3, which is the primary plat amendment 2, the recommendation is to approve that primary plat amendment 2, approve the sidewalk waiver, and to deny the street tree waiver. And also, we waive the final hearing.
Thank you so much. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have 2 seconds. Makes it a fourth. All right. Please call the roll on this item.
The motion is on SMN-25-3, which is the John and Mary Deckard Minor Primary Plat Amendment 2. This is for a sidewalk and street tree waiver request, as well as a waiver of final hearing. It's been moved and seconded to approve the primary plat amendment, approve the sidewalk waiver, deny the street tree waiver, and approve the waiver of final hearing. A vote yes is to do that in that order. Rudy Fields?
Yes.
David Henry?
Yes.
Julie Thomas?
Yes.
David Bush?
Yes.
Tron Enright Randolph?
Yes.
Scott Ferris?
Yes.
Motion is approved, 6-0.
Thank you so much. Thank you, the petitioner. We appreciate bringing this forward. We will now move on to item 4, SSS-25-2, the Doman Sliding Scale Subdivision Primary Plat Sidewalk Waiver Request. This is a preliminary hearing. The waiver of final hearing has been requested. This is on 2 parcels of 15 plus or minus acres in Richland Township, Section 1 at 3500 West Maple Grove Road.
Great, I'll just keep presenting for Drew.
The substitute of the year. All right, thank you.
All right, so this is a sliding scale subdivision with a sidewalk waiver request. They have 15 acres. The lot 1 they're proposing to be 3.824 acres, and lot 2 will be 10.428 acres. The CDO says the parent parcel remainder cannot be further subdivided for a period of 25 years. Proposed lot 1 will contain 3.824 acres on West Maple Grove Road access, and lot 2 is the 10 plus acres with also access to West Maple Grove Road. The petition includes a sidewalk waiver request and is classified as a moderate priority road improvement per the Transportation Alternatives map in 2018. And in lieu of street trees, the property is required to exhibit a tree preservation area or tree planting area, and this area is depicted on the primary plat. So this is the location along West Maple Grove Road in Richland Township. This is the proposed primary plat. So lot 1 is here on the left, lot 2 is on the right, which already has some existing structures on it. The other one is vacant, and I do believe they made this exactly 200 feet wide, which is the design standards for the AGR district. This is a little bit more of a close-up here, showing the right-of-way dedication. There is some utility easement that runs through the property that's depicted, and they are showing the septic locations. Here's the summary table of Lot 1 and Lot 2. We do have some septic permit evidence on file. The access road, we have driveway permits for each of those. We're dedicating 45 foot of right-of-way because this is a major collector. No environmental considerations here, and there is a single-family residence on Lot 2 existing. The road is wide enough. It's 18 to 24.5 feet wide. Sidewalks, it is required because of the classification of it being a moderate priority road improvement. And then we do have capacity letters on file for electric and water, and we've discussed that there is a tree preservation area, and then they're requesting the sidewalk waiver. So the tree preservation area they're putting on Lot 2 up above, it's 0.213 acres. And we've got some photos of the frontage here because of the sidewalk waiver request. And the plat committee met on October 16th, 2025, and forwarded a positive recommendation to approve the primary plat and sidewalk waiver by a vote of 5-0. And the staff recommendation is to approve the subdivision based on the findings that the proposed primary plat meets the CDO, subject to highway engineer and stormwater program manager reports, and also to approve the sidewalk waiver request, citing practical difficulties have been demonstrated. I'll take any questions.
Thank you so much. Questions for staff from my left? Mr. Henry online, any questions for staff?
No questions at this time, thanks.
Thank you. Any questions from my right? Okay, with that, thank you so much. We'll move on to petitioner's representative. If you'd like to come to the podium here in the Nat U Hill room and bring your family.
And with.
Please give us your name.
Craig Doman.
Yeah, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. No comments from me, but appreciate your support and happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. Does anyone have questions for the petitioner? For my right, online, for my left, look at that, no questions. That was easy.
All right.
Glad you could all make it.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
For that excitement.
I told them they have to be quiet this whole meeting. So.
They've been good. All right. That's awesome. All right. Does anybody wish to speak in favor of this petition? You may raise your hand on Teams or come to the podium. Does anybody wish to speak in opposition to this petition? You may raise your hand on Teams to be recognized or come to the podium. Seeing none, let's see if there's any final comment from the board. Any members to my right have final comment, please?
Yes, and I think this is more meant for the public to understand kind of the discussion we just had with sidewalk waivers and the request here with a sidewalk waiver. This isn't really located right next to a built-out trail, so, you know, that was the impetus of wanting to kind of try to stir a discussion up about how we could do a better job of addressing that, especially when there's not practical difficulties there, but just the lack of connectivity. I'm looking forward to supporting that, but I just really wanted to make it clear of why there was a larger discussion just a few moments ago, and there isn't really any discussion I have here or larger concerns about, you know, granting a sidewalk waiver.
Questions? Ferris? No? Any comments or questions online?
None, thank you.
Okay, anything from my left? Look at this. Oh, gosh. Okay. All right. With that, we will entertain a motion, please.
Be happy to do that. In the matter of case number SSS-25-2, the Dolman Sliding Scale subdivision, recommend to approve the subdivision based on the finding that the proposed primary plat meets the county development ordinance subject to the highway engineer and stormwater program manager reports, and approve the sidewalk waiver request citing practical difficulties have been demonstrated.
And would this...
Final waiver.
Would this be a waiver of final hearing?
Yes, with a recommendation for a waiver of final hearing.
Second.
Thank you so much. Great. We have a motion and we have a second. If you could call the roll, please.
Sure, this is on petition SSS-25-2, the Dolman Sliding Scale Subdivision Primary Plat Sidewalk Waiver and Plat Approval with a waiver of final hearing. It's been moved to approve all of the items requested. A vote yes is a vote to approve. Julie Thomas?
Yes.
David Bush?
Yes.
Tron Enright Randolph?
Yes.
Scott Ferris?
Yes.
Rudy Fields?
Yes.
David Henry?
Yes.
You turn your camera on one more time. I'm sorry, I might have had a glitch.
he's there.
He's there. Okay, great. I've got it. Thank you. 6-0 is approved. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you for checking on that camera. Excellent. Thank you so much for being here. All right. We will now move on to item 5, which is a rezone request, REZ-25-5, 8383 SVR LLC, rezone from mineral extraction agriculture to mineral extraction. This is a preliminary hearing. A waiver of final hearing is requested. This encompasses 5 parcels on 114.986 plus or minus acres in Section 20 of Bean Blossom Township at 8383 North Steinsville Road and 8436 West Hedrick Road. Staff, please.
All right, I'm going
Your
to cover
turn.
this one.
Your turn. All right.
Okay, Drew did us a great favor and did the PowerPoint ahead of time.
Did all the packet, but he didn't show
Yeah,
up.
he did the packet and the PowerPoint for us. So to clarify, this is going to be technically a rezone of the whole property to clean up any zone map changes. So it's stated as 221.98 acres that they have mineral extraction / AGR, and they want that solely to be mineral extraction. The area that they're actually rezoning is about 10 acres or less. So it's, we'll show in a few maps, or a few slides from now, a map kind of showing the cleanup that they're seeking. So the petition site exhibits an ongoing quarry activity at the address of 8304 and 8383 North Steinsville Road, and includes approximately 189.79 acres. The remaining 32.19 acres at 8436 West Hedrick is sort of the area of focus here, and it contains a portion of property utilized for quarry activity. It was also established as Tract 1 of Indiana Quarries and Carvers Type E, so there was a subdivision in 2020 that moved lot lines. So ultimately, the petitioner now intends to perform a plat vacation and subsequent second Type E to combine the 32.19 acre property with the remaining 189.79 acres and be all one quarry property, one lot of record. Before the Type E, the 32.19 acre contained only 22.8 acres and was rezoned under a 2011 ordinance from AGRR to ME. So this is the remainder of that 22.8, well, 32.19 minus 22.8 is about what we're looking at here. So again, before the Type E, the 32.19 acre property contained only 22.8 acres and was rezoned in 2011. We went and looked at that ordinance, and it did include 7 conditions of approval, which we are going to be referencing again in our recommendation. One thing to note under number 6, rock crushing is prohibited on the subject site. Remember that these conditions were really just with the 32.19 acre site in mind, and we wouldn't want that to be applicable, or the petitioner likely would not want that to be applicable to the entirety of the quarry site, the 200+ acre quarry site. So here's a location map in Bean Blossom. It is several parcels that is contained in this petition. And circled here on the screen are the portions of the property that are either zoning map errors from lot line shifts over time, or our parcel lines sometimes become a little bit skewed. So they want to clean up everything and also turn any green that you see circled in white to the grayish color mineral extraction, which is about 10 acres or so. So just for your reference, and in the packet, there are definitions established for different zones. So agricultural, residential 2.5, and mineral extraction. They are very different zones, but typically if you look at some of our mineral extraction zones, they tend to be surrounded by agricultural. So it isn't unusual, as you see in this screen here, to have somewhat sparse residential uses surrounding our mineral extraction zones. So we do have, under the county development ordinance, a use for mineral resource extraction, especially for new quarry activities or expansion of quarry activities that are occurring under the CDO. One of the things I want to point your attention to is that, number one, it says mining operations shall not be conducted on parcels located within residential districts, or, in the case of a mineral extraction zoned property, within the areas deemed to be determined logging, urban area. This is a reference to the Indiana State Code 3674-1109, where it says that you have 8 homes in a quarter-mile square, it's considered an urban area. So we've done that analysis on the 32+ acre lot, and the hatched area on the left is showing you, give or take, the urban area. So that's the area that's encompassed by 8 homes, and we shift the box and capture the 8 homes, and that's the maximum extent of that area deemed urban. So they would have to, going back to the standard, either get a variance from that or purchase further properties that are constituted as a home and remove those homes to be out of that urban designation. So it's something we wanted to follow up from Plan Commission Administrative Meeting question. And then on the screen, we do have the ordinance from 2011 with those reference conditions, and also Exhibit 5 from the original ordinance, which I believe is still Exhibit 5 in your packet. There was a AECOM exhibit about the karst evaluation for the rezone request. And so that's in the packet as well for your review. I believe there may be a clarification needed by the petitioner for this, but I will get to that in a second. And then here's the Indiana Quarries and Carvers Type E. Here's the subdivision transfer area that you can see with that. It says 9.27 acres. That was not zoned mineral extraction, is still zoned AGR. So with their purchase of this and wanting to have it all one zone, that's kind of the reason they're here today for the rezone request. And then this is the Big Creek Limestone Type E. This was showing all the different parcels that they own, and again, their plan is to combine those into one. And then there was a recorded easement between Stigler and American Limestone. I believe this was a requirement, and it was to discuss the, I believe it's for the pole of a flag lot, or the track 2 parcel here, so off of Hedrick. So they're going to be limited for any quarry activity. It's going to be limited off of Hedrick, which will be one of the conditions that they've agreed to. Okay, so here's the staff recommendation that we have from the packet. So in regards to REZ-25-5, the rezone request from ME/AGR to ME mineral extraction. Staff is recommending a positive recommendation to the county commissioners of the rezone request, subject to the conditions of approval set forth under ordinance 2011-27 for the same 22.89 acres of the property on the south end of the petition site. So this is to be applicable to the now 32.19 acre site. So number one, record the easement agreement between Michael Stigler and American Limestone that has been satisfied. Number two, incorporate the recommendations of the AECOM car study for the subject site as part of the actual quarry operations. And we're requesting during the petitioner's testimony if they can confirm that from the quarry owner or operator that this has been done already, therefore not needed as a condition. Access to Hedrick Road is restricted for all uses other than residential or agricultural purposes. Quarry traffic shall use the internal roads of the American Limestone property to the north, in addition to their right-of-way driveway access point on Steinsville Road. Number four has been satisfied, a driveway permit, they have received that. Number five, quarry activity shall not extend down into the 50-foot frontage access strip or flagpole of the subject site. That still would be applicable. Rock crushing is prohibited on the 32.19 acre site. And number seven has been satisfied, but it was requiring a 25-foot right-of-way dedication on Hedrick Road. So with that, I can take any questions.
All right, thank you so much. Girl first.
On item number 2, with respect to confirmation from the quarry owner and operator, should that be satisfied before we move forward with this petition?
So in looking back at the meeting minutes and trying to determine that it looks like they had satisfied a lot of these conditions, so that was something that we wanted to just make sure we could confirm with them today. If it's not something that they have an answer to, then I would recommend we continue it until we get an answer for that.
I guess my question is kind of the rock crushing is prohibited. I think I'm fine with that due to kind of the proximity of the residential zone. My question is, how are you going to regulate that? Is that or how are you going to ask them to delineate that if they're going to combine all of these moving forward? So like we know where that area is.
So technically speaking, if there's an expansion to the quarry operations, we should have a site plan on file. We do have site plans for other quarry operations where they show the location specifically to rock crushing. So that would be something that we would be able to get a site plan for.
Okay, it just seems like it's going to be kind of a interesting scenario as kind of making sure that they stay compliant, because I know that some of the rock crushing equipment is mobile. But at least it's there, so if you get complaints by the neighbors and such, at least we have some ability to kind of get them to stop doing that. So thanks. It's just interesting.
Councilor Henry, do you have a question for staff or comment?
No questions at this time, thanks.
Thank you. Anyone from my left? Yes, Mr. Fields.
One question about, again, number 2. Who, and this is I believe my first time I've come up on a zoning recommendation. Who within the county system evaluates the karst issues? Is Drainage Board involved? Who all's involved in looking at this to see that their plan adheres to the setbacks provided in the CDO?
That would be stormwater, but yep.
It would be stormwater. So quarry operations are interesting in that they actually are permitted to quarry all of the karst areas, whereas otherwise in the county, we're protecting those karst areas from development by a buffer. But typically, if there were to be a site plan, then that is when our drainage board or stormwater program would be involved, because there would be an actual plan for them to review. So since this is just at the rezone stage, they didn't have any comments for that. They don't typically have comments on rezones.
So my question relates back to the rock crushing number 6. So they're still going to submit a site plan after this?
If there is any plan for expansion, so they may be legal pre-existing non-conforming. So if they want to expand quarry operations with the combination of all these lots and the rezone, then we would ask them for a site plan for that.
Is moving the rock crushing operations considered an expansion, or is that just part of day-to-day business?
On the 32.19 acre parcel, there is a little bit of quarry activity you can see. I don't know, unless the petitioner could clarify, I'm not sure if they can point out to us where the rock crushing is currently taking place, or if it's taking place. We assume it is, but we don't believe that it's on the 32.19 acre parcel as it stands today.
Okay. So, since they don't necessarily have to do a site plan, I wonder if staff would create a basic map that combines the previous petition and this petition to indicate where they are not supposed to be performing rock crushing activities. Would that, just to prevent them from having to do a site plan if they don't need to, right?
Right, Tammy's bringing up a good point. Since they are planning on platting, we could add some of these conditions onto the plat.
Excellent. So do we need to add that to the conditions?
Yes, that would be helpful.
Okay, so we would need to say for item 6, rock crushing needs to be indicated on, do we call it on the plat or on the site plan?
On the plat.
On the plat, thank you, if you don't mind. The other question I have is, and after reading through everything, I wasn't sure about that flagpole lot on Hedrick, but it is part of that 2011 petition. That wasn't clear when I looked at the packet for the admin meeting, but it's clear now. So thank you for that. So I never asked a follow-up question to staff on that, but it's interesting because it's part of the 2011 plat, or I'm sorry, ordinance, and it still says only residential or agricultural use, but now there's absolutely none of that anywhere on the property. So what can they do with that?
That's a good question. So with the urban area analysis, I think that also further prevents the quarry activity in that flagpole lot. We're asking that if they combine this parcel, they essentially give up the rights to access to Hedrick and only access from the north.
Okay.
So I think that they would have to basically comply with this buffer or seek additional approvals. And then if they wanted to farm the rest of it or do something to that extent, we could look into a possible driveway for that kind of activity.
Okay, so we can leave the text as is in the conditions and still be okay?
The text as it is today applies to that property right now.
Right.
So I think that we would, if you want to carry it forward, you could still carry it forward.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yes. Colonel Ferris.
So Jackie? Based upon this discussion, going back to item number 6 as a condition, how would you rewrite that condition?
Our council over here as well reminded me that rock crushing is typically or sometimes mobile, so it may be challenging to add it to a plat, but the idea was to reword this to say rock crushing is prohibited on the 32.19 acre site, and that all, we could say all possible locations for rock crushing be indicated on a future plat. And then they could put it
Yeah.
in
Or they
multiple
could mark the
places.
areas where they will not.
Yeah,
It might
okay.
be easier.
Restricted.
It might be easier. Either way, I just think it would be cleaner if we had a map to go on, because typically this is complaint driven, right? And so if we heard from a neighbor who said, oh, it's rock crushing, it's like right at my back door, we could say, well, here's the map. We know where it's permitted or where it's not. And so perhaps it could be written either in the prohibited or only allowed in sense. So, yes.
Yeah, I like this discussion. I think making sure wherever it's prohibited, we delineate that on the plat. When they go to the replatting, maybe make sure it's pretty apparent, hatching or something. We don't want just a dotted line, because if it's a neighbor wondering if they're kind of too close doing the rock crushing, I would want them to be very aware of where that location is and not necessarily have the skill sets to read a survey like, oh, look at this big hashed area. They're definitely within that area. My thoughts into Mr. Ferris's question, if you asked him to delineate the areas that are prohibited, I think would go very well with that amendment or that condition.
So much as we did on the previous petition, anything that's marked satisfied, we don't have to add as a condition. My question is relating to the karst features, and I don't really understand what that looks like. What does it look like when the karst study is incorporated? What does that mean? Does that, I'm trying to get a grasp of what is it a document? Is it a plan? Is it a procedure? How do we know that it's been addressed?
Yes, so this is what we have from the minutes, was that it was a memorandum back with the 2011 ordinance, and it essentially has the outline of a typical karst evaluation that we receive. So I think that there were maybe some recommendations on maybe some amendments to how they could work into their quarry operations, some of these recommendations, but we can't tell based on the aerials whether they've done some of these recommendations, so we were hoping that they could speak to some of this.
Okay, so that's why you're saying all we really need at this moment is just a verbal acknowledgement that there is a karst study, that it still stands, and that they've incorporated it into their plan. Okay. Thank you. Yes.
Does stormwater monitor ongoing quarry operations throughout the life of the quarry, or is that something just on the front end? And
There are a lot of protections for quarry operations under the state code that minimize our ability to regulate them, if that answers you. We don't necessarily take them into our inspection inventory. We're not necessarily going out there all of the time. I will say some of the quarry sites that we will get complaints on are related to blasting, and there are some that have, like there's one south of the county that was established only in 2005, and that one we do have some litigation or past case history where we can ask them for blasting reports and things like that, so they have to keep track of that kind of information.
my sense is there's just so much sediment generated from crushing and cleaning and all of the things they do. You know, is that sediment stream monitored so they're not pumping it into a sinkhole? You know, so that's my thought, is how do they incorporate this plan, and what do they do with that incorporation during the life of the operation?
Questions? Okay. Yes. Really good questions. All right. Anything else from the board? Okay, let's see if the petitioner's representative is here to speak on this item, you may come up to the podium. Welcome. Please give us your name, and we'll have you sign in as well.
Thank you for your time this afternoon and considering this request before you. My name is Kevin Buckheit, and I am a land use planner working for the law firm Krieg DeVault out of their Carmel, Indiana offices. I am here today to represent the petitioner, 8383 SVR LLC. With me is David Edgeworth. He is a member of that LLC, and he's also the president of Big Creek Limestone. He'll be able to address some of the operational questions that you raised. There are a number of what I'll call housekeeping items that are happening on this property today. One is what you're addressing in particular is the consolidation of the zoning to make sure there are no gaps internal over time, and we're using a single new perimeter description to handle all that. We've talked about the vacation of Tract 1 from the earlier subdivision. We've talked about creating a new administrative subdivision to incorporate this one big lot now. And that then will allow us to go back to the assessor and finish the work that I started in January to consolidate the parcels. It was actually that discussion that they could not incorporate the Tract 1 that led us to the planning department that helped discover that the zoning was amiss on this property as well. So we're just trying to clean things up for going forward and let everybody know that what is out there today is what's going to continue. What happens through this rezone application isn't going to change any of that. It's just trying to clean up the process. Staff report is awesome, thorough, very complete, and I commend them for that. Yeah, you have a great staff. We agree with their recommendations, and I'll come back to those individual conditions of approval that they've pulled forward and those a little bit. We understand that they did an urban area delineation. If we want to pursue activity in that area, we understand that we have to come back for a variance. So just want to acknowledge that. Looking at the conditions of approval, at the bottom of page 96 in your staff report, as has been mentioned, number 1 has been satisfied. Number 2, we acknowledge that it exists, we acknowledge that it applies, and it is incorporated into the operations of the site, and Mr. Edgeworth can answer any specific questions you may have about that. Access to Hedrick Road, we understand and accept that. It's just an oddity that it exists, and it doesn't make sense to try to go in there and mine anything because you maybe get a foot wide to work with. Driveway application has been satisfied for Steinsville Road. Quarrying activity shall not extend down. It's number 5. And we talked about that. That should still apply. Rock crushing, I think if you can figure out what needs to happen and delineating, I think perhaps prohibited areas on the plat might be the way to go. We can certainly agree to that. And then number 7 has been satisfied as well. Once the discussion is done for today, we are respectfully requesting a positive recommendation to the county commissioners for the rezone, and we respectfully request, if you are satisfied after the discussion, a waiver of the second hearing.
Thank you so much. Why don't you stay there? Well, let's go ahead and hear from Mr. Edgeworth, and then we'll come back for questions, if you don't mind staying close.
Sure, I'm David Edgeworth, a member of 8383 SVR, the landowner. Point of clarification, if I could have that site map up.
The one with the circles on it?
The one that it was in color that had yellow outlines, it was up just a second ago. I'm sorry. That one. The northern
Can you go back to the mic? I'm sorry. It's going to be really hard. Yeah.
The northern tier of that property, it's a rectangular box, long east-west. That is leased to Lincoln Park. They run the crushing operations. It is a fixed facility, and they have a lease, and the land is limited to that period. So we can work with your office however need to be to fix that in place and address the issue of any mobile crushing, which will not occur. It will all be limited to the existing lease along that northern tier. And again, we can provide any information we need to your office to get that taken care of.
Right.
Also, it's my understanding, just briefly on that ACOM report, the recommendation was just to protect several karst features from runoff. And they're identified in the report. And we're not active in that area right now, and I understand that if we do become active in that area, we'll have to go back to that report, make sure we know exactly what sites have been identified, and do the runoff and the protection to protect those. So we understand that.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. Good, good. Okay. Let's go ahead and see if there are any questions for either petitioner from my left. Questions? From my right, Mr. Henry, questions for the petitioner's representative?
No questions, thank you.
I don't either. Everything, yeah, you're right. Staff is awesome and you all are great. Thank you for your input and information today. Appreciate that. Thank you.
I would recommend, just before a motion, I think that the conditions that are important to remain, I would suggest it would be 2, 3, 5, and 6 on the screen with edits.
Right. Yep. Yeah. Thank you. Let's go ahead and see if there's any public comment on this item. Anybody who wishes to speak in favor of this petition may come to the podium here in the Nat U Hill room or raise your hand on Teams to be recognized. Seeing none, does anyone wish to speak in opposition to this petition? Please raise your hand on Teams to be recognized or come to the podium here in the Nat U Hill room. All right. Seeing none, any final comment from members of the board, or did you have anything else you wanted to add? Okay. Any final comments or questions from members of the board to my right? Mr. Henry, questions or final comments? From my left? Nothing? Okay. All right. We are ready for a motion. Mr. Ferris? Oh, yes.
Just wanted to acknowledge that, that the conditions outlined by staff, numbers 2, 3, 5, and 6 are acceptable.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for that clarification. Please.
With respect to case number Romeo Echo Zulu 25-5, which is a rezone request to change from mineral extraction and AGR agriculture to all mineral extraction, and also a waiver of final hearing as well. The motion is to forward a positive recommendation for the rezone request, subject to the conditions set forth in Ordinance 2011-27, and for the same 22.89 acres of property on the south end of the petition site, specifically conditions 2, 3, 5, and 6. Is that correct, Jackie? Yeah. Like I said before, and waiver of the final hearing.
May I offer a friendly moment? I do think condition 6 was a change to delineate the areas that are prohibited. Would you accept that as a friendly amendment?
Absolutely accept it as briefed by Jackie when she provided an explanation of what number 6 would entail.
Second.
Okay. Thank you, thank you. Okay. All right. And I will just note for the record that for item number 2, we have received confirmation from the quarry owner operator about the AECom car study being considered and incorporated, but I do think it's good to leave that in, just for the future. Okay. All right.
I'll call the roll.
Please call the roll. Thank you.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to send a positive recommendation to the county commissioners based on RAZ-25-5, which is the 838SVR LLC rezone from mineral extraction and agricultural residential 2.5 to mineral extraction. And it also includes a waiver of final hearing and the following conditions, which I will read into the record. And this will apply to the now 32.19 acre parcel of the property. So number 2 is incorporated as a condition which says, incorporate the recommendations of the AECom car study for the subject site as part of the actual quarry operations plan. Number 3, access to Hedrick Road is restricted for all uses other than residential or agricultural purposes. Quarry traffic shall use the internal roads of the American Limestone property to the north in addition to their right-of-way driveway access on Steinsville Road. Number 5, quarry activity shall not extend down into the 50-foot frontage / access strip or flagpole of the subject site. And number 6, rock crushing is prohibited on the 32.19 acre site. The future plat should delineate the 32.19 acre site as no rock crushing permitted per ordinance 2025- to be determined. A vote yes is a vote to approve or send a favorable recommendation and waiver of final hearing. David Bush?
Yes.
John Enright Randolph?
Yes.
Scott Ferris?
Yes.
Rudy Fields?
Yes.
David Henry?
Yes.
Julie Thomas?
Yes.
Okay, motion is carried 6-0.
Thank you for your time. Do we have an idea on what the council or the commissioners' meeting date might be?
We will let you know. They meet every week, so we'll just try to get you on accordingly. So we'll be in touch.
Perfect.
All right.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Right. I just had a request to go ahead and note for anybody who's joined us on Teams or is here waiting for item number 8, the Bell Vista Section 3 subdivision, that item has been continued to our November regular session meeting. So just a reminder for anybody who's involved in that. All right. We have 2 more items on our new business list. We will start with ZOA 25-3, which are amendments to the county development ordinance specifically relating to the sliding scale subdivision. This is a preliminary hearing and a waiver of final hearing is requested. If you would, please.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and start by saying this is one of the CDO prioritized list items that we discussed at the beginning of the hearing. So it was tabled during the CDO approval to be discussed by the full plan commission as a separate item. So this is the separate item that has been reviewed by the Ordinance Review Committee, discussed at length by the Ordinance Review Committee, and has been introduced to the Plan Commission as an administrative item. We will go ahead and go through some of the changes that have been recommended. So the first change is under Chapter 831 in the beginning, and the suggestion was that we go ahead and put together a visual of the different subdivision types. So we have Table 1-831, which is the different subdivision classifications, but I get a lot of questions in the office of what's a minor versus a sliding scale versus a major. So we have examples with some context now added. So the first one is an example of a minor subdivision, 4 lots or less, each with at least 10 acres, and these are connected by a private sewage disposal system, or i.e. a septic system, each lot. Okay, and then this is a minor subdivision in a more urban area. It does have access to a public sewage disposal system, i.e. sewer, so they were able to meet the minimum lot size requirements for the zone. The top of the screen is an example of a sliding scale. 3 of the lots are exactly 2.5 acres in size, and then you have the large, what we call parent parcel, that's at least 55% of the total. These are also on a septic system, but it's allowed to be subdivided into 3 smaller lots, with 1 larger lot being reserved for a 25-year period, which we will discuss below. And then lastly, we have an example aerial of a major subdivision, 5 lots or more. These are all connected by sewer. So under Chapter 831, Section 4, we did have 2 additions to the purpose statement after deliberation by the Ordinance Review Committee about the purpose of the sliding scale subdivision. So I'll just go ahead and read those. So number 7 was added to state, allow the flexibility to create smaller residential lots served by private sewage disposal systems, i.e. septics, while also preserving a majority of the original tract for agriculture or conservation purposes. And then number 8 was amended to add, it says, permit development in rural areas that will not overburden existing infrastructure and services, and to not adversely impact existing low-traffic roadways, police and fire coverage, emergency service response times, and other governmental services. So one of the discussions that we had is that a sliding scale subdivision in a rural area, they're not required to put in the infrastructure that may be associated with a more dense development such as a major subdivision. So that's the limitation of the 4 lots, and also discussion of reserving that parcel, the parent parcel, to not create a further dense area in a rural area. So then the last change that was recommended to us was under the current text in the County Development Ordinance. It states that under the discussion point, number B, or letter B, it says the black text is existing and not changing, but the red is new. So the designated parent parcel remainder shall not be further subdivided for a period of 25 years from the date of recording of the secondary plat, unless connected to a sanitary sewage system or further subdivision of the properties authorized by ordinance. This restriction shall be noted on the secondary plat. The county commissioners legislatively find and conclude that the 25-year restriction is reasonably necessary to accomplish the purpose of the sliding scale option, and as a matter of legislative policy, see Ordinance 2015-02, which is the ordinance that created the sliding scale subdivision. It represents a reasonable trade-off for the opportunity to create smaller lot sizes than otherwise allowed under the minor subdivision. So that's all I have for that text amendment, and then I will let you discuss this one separate from the second text amendment.
All right, thank you so much. Any comments or questions for staff from my right?
I'll have a comment. I'll wait until we go through the public.
Mr. Henry, any comments or questions for staff?
The same as Mr. Enright Randolph. I'll withhold until public comment is over. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments for staff from my left? I don't have any either, but I will point out that this is really a minor thing, but on point number 6, which is on page 137 in our packet, the word "the" should appear, provide the opportunity. I don't know if that's something we could do without even worrying about it. It's really not part of this, but anyway, just bothered me. Okay. So let's go ahead and hear from the public. If anybody wishes to speak on this amendment, which is presented here, you may come up to the podium here and offer your input. Good evening, Ms. Pearl.
Good evening. All right. Thank you so much. My name is Jen Pearl, and I'm from the BEDC. I'm also a member of the CDO coalition that presented the white paper last fall. I wanted to start by thanking the Plan Commission and staff for pursuing this item following public feedback. We know that the team has spent many hours looking into this issue. We've sat with you in the room for many of those hours. We are concerned about this item for a couple reasons. Our community is facing some parallel challenges. Number one is an aging population with the need to attract and retain working age families. Number two, Monroe County offers 78% the national average of private sector wages, but we are 99% the national average of cost of living. And third, following SEA 1, there's a strong need to raise revenue for local government through business AV and local income tax. The BEDC and our partners are working to attract and grow jobs to increase wages, but housing and cost of living is a critical other side of the coin. Prospective employers often ask us about available talent and where they live. These are critical elements that allow their operations to thrive. In an expensive market, sliding scale subdivisions are just one important tool in the toolbox for creating that place for families and their children to grow and build wealth. We agree with many of the comments from the August 11th ORC meeting, including, this is a very technical issue, and it's complex and hard to follow. 25 years has a very big impact on families. And infrastructure is an important question around development, and sewer is always best. But if city sewer is not available, as we've seen, there are other options through package plants or regional sewer districts. So we come with a request for two things. Number one, that the 25-year reservation be reduced, or even better, eliminated, similar to the 2015 version. This impacts families and generational wealth. This change won't alone solve cost of living or housing challenges, but it's one tool in the toolbox for growing a thriving workforce that enables us to attract and grow quality jobs. Number two, please do anything you can to simplify and communicate the sliding scale requirements to residents and let them know this conversation is happening, especially given the interest last year. We still nearly missed this item this week buried in the agenda, and we make it our job to follow the public calendars. This is an important issue that many people are interested in. Anything that can be done to clarify the language and communicate what is happening is critical. Also, shout out to planning staff. You guys are saints in explaining this. So thank you so much for your consideration.
Thank you. Does anyone else have public comment to offer on this item?
Good evening, Madam President. This is Christopher Emge from the Greater Bloomington Chamber of Commerce. I want to echo our colleague over at the BEDC statement. So everything that she said as a participant of that same working group that put together that CDO paper, we want to just confirm her comments and then go to really the 25-year moratorium piece of this and where it kind of comes into our advocacy as something that doesn't appear as reasonable as I think it should be. As just a rational planner, and we like to think of ourselves in the chamber as rational individuals. 25 years is more than a generation. It's longer than most residents' mortgages, longer than mine, business leases, economic development cycles. You know, private business agencies, the planning department even goes on a 25-year assumption. Things change in that time. The environment, infrastructure, all things. Just think about 25 years ago, we didn't have cell phones. This rule kind of locks property and investment for a quarter of a century, prevents some adaptive land use, a key ingredient for both responsible growth and economic resilience, which I think we all in this room support. If you go back to the 2014 Plan Commission discussion that we heard from the administrative meeting back on June 3rd, that 25-year number was sort of bantied about, and it was deemed, I quote, anecdotal and really unsupported by data, with members admitting it lacked sort of evidence of validity. And this is where Monroe County kind of stands alone here on the restrictive use. I think Tippecanoe County has 10 years. None of the, I think, donut counties have this. So it kind of puts us in a competitive disadvantage. When we're attracting new agriculture enterprise, rural investment, small-scale development, we need all the advantages we can get. It doesn't seem like a big thing, and I don't think this is going to change the course of housing or anything like that, as Ms. Pearl alluded to. But we have to sort of balance this sort of growth and preservation, and this doesn't quite do that. A more transparent, evidence-based approach would be maybe a 10-year review period tied to measurable infrastructure benchmarks or something. It's something that seems a little bit, I don't know, maybe one generation, 15 years, 10 years. So I think it's unrealistic to expect landowners, investors, and future boards to operate under a moratorium that will outlast the policy cycles. Look at the driveway that they didn't even realize that they had paved it and it was against the PUD. These sort of things in long periods tend to happen when you have things that are that long in scope. So I encourage you to not take on this 25 years and to have amendment maybe changing that something much lower. And I thank you for your time tonight. I do appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. MG. Appreciate that. Does anybody on Teams have any comment? You can raise your hand to be recognized, or if there's anyone here in the Nat U Hill room who wishes to speak who has not spoken yet on this item, you may come up to the podium. Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close public comment, and we'll go ahead and hear from members of the Plan Commission on any final comments or statements or suggestions, et cetera, that they may have. We'll go ahead and start online with County Councilor David Henry.
I'll pass and wait for other comment by those in the room. Thanks.
Okay, this would be the last comment period before a motion.
I appreciate that. I'm literally parking, so go ahead and talk in the room, and I'll be there in a minute.
Okay. So
I think he's asking to be.
You want to be recognized
different rotation
after?
I'm asking to pass my turn until others speak, and if I can get, please withhold until the end. I'll hold till the end.
Okay, so we'll come back to you. I'll come back to you. Okay, I'm sorry, the sound is a little distorted in here, so that's why I didn't understand what you were asking. Anyone from my right wish to comment? Surveyor Enright Randolph?
Yes, thanks. I've said a lot on this topic. Some of what I'm going to say, and I'm sorry that it's going to be repetitive for my colleagues up here, but I think it's really important for the public. As elected county surveyor, I'm the only one that's directly elected to serve on the Plan Commission. We do have other elected officials, but they are representative of their bodies, one from the county commissioner and one from the county council. So it's very important for the public to understand my position on this, because this was a pretty large discussion. I am on the Ordinance Review Committee, but I was not there when the vote was had to move this discussion forward. I'm very, very concerned that if we go ahead and decide to approve this, which is a very interesting position to be in, because this does bring some information and clarity to what the sliding scale is and what that trade-off is. Moratorium, reservation, I understand that. But I also think this will remove it from the prioritization list. And I think the main discussion there was the reservation, or moratorium, more commonly referred to prior to one of our ORC meetings. So I do not think we really had the discussion, in my opinion, of should we reduce that 25 years. And I did mention at the admin meeting, and if anyone wants to watch that meeting, you'll get your typical Tron and Wright Randolph, speaking as I normally do, very blunt, straightforward, and putting my cards on the table. I'm going to be a little more concise with this because, again, I've spoke a lot about it. We need to ensure that we are making good choices for the entire county, and there's a lot of things that have bottlenecked our ordinance. Getting sewer provided to us is one of them. I feel like, in my opinion, we're getting ahead of ourselves, the cart in front of the horse, but that could just be my opinion. A lot of people will say, no, we're focused on this, but if we're focused on this, we should then address it fully, and I think we need to address the moratorium. We don't know what's going to happen, and the fact that everything in our ordinance is contingent to septic or sewer, and if you have to go the septic route, you have to have a minimum of 10 acres. We saw some examples, which I appreciate, that can show you what type of lot sizes you can have if you can have sewer, but we don't know when that's going to happen. If we were addressing things in an order where we were providing another option, then I think I could go ahead and leave the sliding scale as is because we have other tools. But right now, if this is the way that we're going to move forward, I feel like we're, not really adequately addressing what the sliding scale tool is for folks. And I would really, it'd be hard for me, but probably support a reduction in the moratorium to something like 10 or 15 years versus 25. I don't foresee when we're going to get, the opportunity to have sewer extended into some of these areas that have appropriate infrastructure to sustain density. But, that's kind of the way I feel about it, the same type of analysis I do from a GIS perspective of looking at infrastructure, looking at kind of roads that have been built out, looking at large size lots that weren't hooked up, so now they're just limited to a sliding scale or 10 lot minimums. And if you have 50 acres and you don't want to do the sliding scale, you can only create 5 lots. And that bothers me. So, thank you. And I won't be supporting this.
Pierce?
There is a lot of emotion on this topic. It has been discussed for decades. Within this body, speaking for myself, I've got over a year and many, many hours of talking about this and gnashing of teeth and trying to truly understand what the heck we're talking about with respect to subdivisions. We talked about the 25 years in detail. In the Ordinance Review Committee, we did talk about it. There were 4 of us, and 3 of us support the changes that you see in front of you as part of this amendment. What I personally was concerned about is an explanation about the major, the minor, and also the sliding scale, because it was clear to me after going through the public hearings that there was a tremendous amount of confusion on what was and what is. Come to find out that after the meeting was over, the planning department met with any number of people and explained to them the differences between the subdivisions and, in fact, what was doable. In some cases, and actually most cases, they found an alternative, something other than the sliding scale. So as our discussions continued over time, that what you see now on the front end on the subdivisions is an explanation of those subdivisions, and also, more importantly, we wanted to have the overheads and examples of those type of subdivisions pictorially so people could take and see them and apply them on it might apply to their petition on whatever they were wanting to do. By adding an explanation and also the overheads, as you see, as part of this amendment, I think the staff has done an outstanding job of laying out the differences. And most importantly, and something that was said in the very beginning and has been said over and over and over again, if you have a question, contact the plan department and talk to them about it. And they will walk you through what you can and cannot do, and in most cases, you're going to find that you're going to be able to do what you want to do. You just didn't necessarily have a very good understanding of what the ordinance said. Adding the paragraphs in there on the front end hopefully allows for an explanation to at least answer some of the preliminary questions coming from the petitioners. So I support this amendment. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. To my left, do either of you have comments to make? Please, Mr. Fields, we'll start with you.
I am pretty new to the Plan Commission. I did not sit through any of the discussions about the ordinance review and all that when it happened, and it baffles me. I do not understand it, and so I can't vote for or against because I just don't understand the driver for it. So,
okay. The driver for?
Why 25 years?
Okay, got it. Thank you. Mr. Bush?
Yes. I'd like to compliment staff on what the changes they made. I also love to see the pictorial presentations, which takes what could be a very confusing topic and makes it a lot more easy to understand. The only place where I am stuck on this is, once again, is the 25 years. I don't know where that number came from. I personally think it's long. I don't know that I have a better recommendation, maybe 15 years. And I get why you don't want it to be too short, because then that tempts people to buy the property, sit on it, and try to make a lot of changes and maybe prematurely alter the county's flavor. But I do think 25 years is too long. Thank you.
Good. Thank you so much. Councilmember Henry?
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you for the grace there to find parking on a Thursday in Bloomington from Indianapolis getting in here. So I want to thank the public for comments on this particular amendment. And I want to echo some of the sentiments of my colleagues up here in terms of the origin of the 25 years. We had a discussion in the administrative meeting that I still think has not really been fully addressed in the document about the origin story of that rule. And the only reference we have is the meeting minutes from the June meeting that was referenced in public comment, where a 4-4 vote of this body in 2014, a split vote, failed to amend it the last time. So it did not pass without controversy 11 years ago, about half of 25 years, if we think about it, pretty close to that. So As I said in the administrative meeting, the argument is circular because it is self-referencing back to previous decisions of the commission, and the evidence of the 25-year rule is going back to cite itself. And so it doesn't have a basis in law. In those transcripts, then Richard Martin, I think, made the comment about it not having an analog or being data-driven. Mr. Schilling was there and, of course, has also reiterated in the administrative meeting this month that it's a policy preference. It's not found in code as a rule. And so I think the other comments where we would have to point to where else in code or practice 25 years equals a generation is hard to do. We wouldn't have a TIF that's 25 years, for example. I think there's some other references that have been made to other instruments of time that we'd have there. And even demographers would say that, the boomer generation, Gen X, millennials are 15 to 17-year generations. So I think on this, if we can do two things still. One is, when we say in that particular space, we're pointing back to policy or decisions of the commission. If it is circular and we're pointing back to just previous discussions instead of a ordinance that is sanctified in Monroe County, that when we say generations, it's 25 years here, is something that we need to think about. Otherwise, I would open maybe an amendment to this evening as a way to fix up or address the 25 years as a generation rule. So I would offer today an amendment to this, if we can do that in the meeting today, to move that we amend section 860-10-B-3 to read 15 years instead of 25 in that section of the CDO.
I'll second.
I have a question for clarification purposes. Is that the only amendment that you are offering on this section?
On that section, at this time, unless there's a friendly amendment to clarify or extend other references to the 25-year rule, I would entertain that.
I would ask maybe if you were willing, I hate to do this for being the second, but there was an area where we could add the. Would you go to that area right there on 6? It would be the. Willing to?
I would entertain that, sure. I would accept it friendly.
My second stands.
Okay. We have a motion to amend this portion of the CDO regarding the sliding scale subdivision. We haven't actually even put this on the table yet. So I know, that's okay. I can wait.
I'm sorry, as a point of order, did we not introduce this item into?
We haven't.
Well, that may have, I'm happy to wait, but yeah.
So I would ask that you go ahead and make a motion to approve, and then with that amendment as well, if you would please.
That's my apologies. I thought we already introduced a motion. So I'll make a motion to proceed with approval of the adoption of this adjustment to the CDO as presented with the amendment that I've offered.
I'll still second.
Okay, thank you. So at least we have something on the table to talk through. Thank you. Does anyone have any comments on this motion or the amendment? With the amended language? No? Did you have anything? Okay.
I think I made my case already. Yeah.
I have not spoken yet, so I'd like to, please. And that is to say that I do appreciate the interest in this. This ordinance was created to protect farmland, and if we're not getting food from farms, I don't know where y'all think it comes from. But really it's about the rural parts of the county. And these rural parts of the county can't handle extensive, high-density development as much as people may look at large lots of land, for example, things we've looked at today, and kind of think, wow, I could put 100 homes there. Well, you could, but they'd be 20 miles from the nearest grocery store. And then that creates road issues, and it creates septic issues, and it creates, well, of course, we'd have to be on sewer. It creates other issues as well. And that is difficult. And so for those who don't want to create a minor or major subdivision, which you're always welcome to propose, anybody, any property owner is invited to do so and make that proposal, that can be done. But if you are a person who wants to conserve land, perhaps it's not buildable. You want to conserve land that perhaps is in your farming family. And you still want to maintain that conservation or that farm, but yet you would wish to sell off a small piece to help fund retirement, or you wish to sell off a couple of small pieces just for homes for relatives, for example. Then you can do that without going through a minor. And unless you're seeking a sidewalk, road waiver, or other thing, you can actually do that without coming before us, right? And so that's the benefit, right? Is if you don't want to have to come to the Plan Commission to rezone your property, and then the commissioners, because we're such evil commissioners, you can avoid doing that and just work with the planning department, our magnificent planning staff. And unless you're seeking certain waivers, it doesn't even come across our desk. So that's why it was created. Now, one of the suggestions is, well, just get rid of the 25-year. Well, then this becomes a different kind of subdivision. And if folks don't want to have this, then what will happen is almost immediately, as been pointed out, it'll get chewed up, and land just becomes housing prospectors' dreams. What this piece does do is, with the images and the graphics, is it does present to the public what these options are and how they differ from one another, and where you need septic, where you need sewer, how it all works together, what it looks like on a map or on an overhead on a GIS. And that is brilliant, and I hope no matter what that you don't get rid of that. So I would hope that we're going to vote for clarity and for our residents. So worst case scenario, if we don't vote for clarity with our residents, I would ask that the staff at least utilizes these images at the front desk where residents may come in with questions. Now, I do understand that if sewer became magically available and widely available and things changed, I think we would be looking at a lot of the parts of the CDO or considering other options. So I don't think that that doing it now will bring sewer. So I do get it that sewer changes things, but it doesn't change intersections and roads and other infrastructure that's needed. It's one infrastructure piece that's vital, but it's not the only one. And so then the question becomes, do we have the road width? Do we have the intersections? Do we have the ability to insert a large population away from the city center? Who pays for it? That's always a good question. And how many deputies will that take? And how do we pay for fire? And is there a nearby fire station? And all of the other hundreds of questions that we ask petitioners to consider when they bring in a petition Do you have hookup? Do you have access to this utility, that utility, and the other? Do we have water? Do you have electricity? We ask every petitioner to do that, so I'm not sure why we wouldn't do that. So, so that is what I wanted to say. I think if folks want to open this up yet again or keep talking about it in perpetuity, we could do so. I would much rather we give this a rest for a few months and come back to it, running through ORC, Plan Commission admin, and then regular session hearing. I don't want this to be on our agenda nonstop because staff has already got enough to do, and I don't know that this is the right way to approach this. But that's what I wanted to say, and I appreciate everyone for giving me the floor for a minute or two. All right, so any other, Colonel Ferris?
I just have a point of order.
Okay.
And it's really, I don't know what it is. It's a comment, it's a statement, it's a question. We have a motion and a second on the table.
Mm-hmm. And we're having our comments before we vote.
That's correct.
Yes.
If for some reason this is voted down, what happens to this topic? Is it completely removed from the list?
Well, this will be a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners. So tonight, if we,
Let's assume that we have a failed motion. The recommendation would go forward with a failed motion, correct?
we would need a majority, either no recommendation, a recommendation for negative, or a recommendation for positive.
So it's still up at that point for the county commissioners to make a decision on what we see in front of us. I mean, I understand it. I just want you to say it.
If we don't get majority by rule, it defaults and it proceeds to our next scheduled meeting. We had that occur during the CDO process where we weren't able to get a majority either way. Am I correct, Mr. Schilling?
Yeah, I mean, if you get a positive recommendation and negative recommendation or no recommendation tonight, that takes it off your plate, period. It's into the commissioner's court at that point. So, yeah.
But that needs a majority vote. We need a majority to say.
To say one of those three options.
If we don't have a majority vote, because there are only 6 of us here, then what happens? I think was the question.
Well, typically, someone will make a motion to send it forward with no recommendation, or you'll continue it to the next hearing where there might be other members present.
Okay, thank you. And just to be clear, the motion that included an amendment can be considered, right?
Yes.
Thank you. Yes. I just want to make sure that that's true. Okay. We'll go back to Mr. Henry.
Thank you, and I'll keep it brief, and I appreciate your comments, Commissioner. I would agree with much of what you said. I don't think what you offered in terms of what this amendment does or what the motion does really has anything to do with the 25-year rule. Whether it's 15 years or 25 years, we still have the instruments inside the CDO to review the use, the sliding scale, the divisions. And so really, the amendment itself is only addressing in what time span that those conversations happen, whether it's a real generation or the 25-year concept of a generation. So I don't necessarily disagree with most of what you presented there. I will say, and I think it has been brought up a few times around this topic, I am the current county councilor sitting here, and things have changed in our county where when we think about how we generate revenue, the state of Indiana has shifted its tax policy from property owners to wage earners in our county, which means we're going to be drawing more and more from income tax to fuel our government. And when we do not have opportunities to develop and attract those taxpayers that are wage earners to live in this county, If they work in our county and they reside in other counties, as we all know, that income tax goes home with them. And so the culture has changed a little bit since 2014 when this was discussed last, and certainly the 1970s, the last time our tax code has been so changed dramatically, that I hear the comments about infrastructure development. I understand the scenarios that have been presented in the room, but those aren't the only scenarios. And there may be good planning efforts we do for cost-benefit analysis to figure out the breakpoints of what would be a reasonable development that could occur on a property where we could afford the extra deputy or the fire service. But that's the work of plan commissions. That's what they do, right? And that's what planners do. So I think to have all that in our minds as we're trying to say, well, do we try to protect all that right here in a vote, or do we actually do the work as things are presented to us within 15-year increments is totally fine. We're going to have to reimagine the way we do protect our spaces, and we do build in a way that is meeting that triple bottom line for our community that protects people and the planet and shared prosperity in our community. So I don't disagree with much of what you said. I think the issue just floats around what is this idea of 25 years. And I think is a reasonable adaptation as we move forward in this. I also want to say too, for the record too, which is really important. I understand Colonel Ferris presented the procedural piece of this, which is we'll vote and then it goes to the board and the board will make their decision. Is that? I think it's just that. I mean, we understand that procedural space, but bear in mind we have a CDO list of amendments that has been sitting and we've been working through since December. It is now October. And we're working maybe at the speed of government here, which maybe frustrates the speed of commerce about how quickly we're resolving some of these issues in the CDO so partners know what the playbook is to do the work in the community. So I feel that we probably need to get the rest of that list handled in short order as a promise to the public. I'd hate to be here in December with languishing amendments that took a year to get to. When some of these decisions really need to be brought front and center. But I appreciate the work of the ORC and revisiting this, and I'll just rest my comments there. Thank you.
Right, Randolph?
Yeah, and I'll be pretty quick. I'm torn. Like the comments you made are, Commissioner Thomas, are very applicable, and also the comments that the rest of my colleagues have made. That's why I've never even suggested getting away from having that type of reservation. I think 15 years gives us appropriate time to plan. These documents are fluent. If somehow the city starts extending sewer, then we can petition the Plan Commission to bring forward an amendment and we can go back to the 25 years. I think that tool was very helpful for all of the reasons you expressed, but we're in a new time where it's not business as normal. And also, I think one other thing I wanted to make a comment is the people that want to carve off those lots, they still have the opportunity. What we're discussing is the reservation and moratorium. So like the people that want to preserve that land and be good stewards, they still can. That doesn't change anything. What the time difference, in my opinion, does is people that might want to then maybe carve out another lot. And I think if they go through 15 years and we see some issues with this, we can readdress it. We could put a longer timeline. I guess that's what I really want to get across with my comment here is like, these aren't static ordinances, they're fluent. We should be addressing updates to our CDO every 5 years. We start in 2016/17. It's about the end of 2025. It took us this long just to get to this point to have this discussion, and I feel like the 15 years is a medium. And if we need to address that in 10 years from now, that still gives us 5 years on the people that would choose that approach. Some of the people that had already chose to do it might just be getting out of the moratorium and reservation and be able to then maybe go and subdivide again. But I'm not going to get in a position where I'm hyperly concerned about someone going through a sliding scale every 15 years to subdivide a large lot, because you still need the minimum lots. So if you wanted the 3, that's 7.5, and you still need 55% in the parent parcel every time. So eventually that becomes limited itself. And I really think that, like, it's the best thing we could do right now, unless we went through a different sequence of discussions to address the hardship that some of the property owners in this county are dealing with, and that would have been maybe creating another subdivision process. But I'm not going to go down there. I already said I'm going to try to stay very, very on topic and refrain from some of what could, allow me just to not be too concerned about a 25-year. But we don't have other tools in our toolbox, and I am not willing to pass anything until we address this. I won't support anything unless the timeline is reduced, because this needs to stay on our prioritization list that where it was put. In my opinion, we haven't really addressed it fully, and we have quite a few new Plan Commission members, and I think allowing them time to really grasp the gravity of this is very important, because I don't know if everyone's under the same assumption as if we move this forward, it's off our prioritization list. It's off, so who knows when it comes back. So this is our opportunity to address it, and we're not the final decision makers. I understand that part, but I do think the 15 years is a balance, and if I do think that we can address this moving forward when things go back to normal, which is probably a term I shouldn't use because I don't know if that will ever happen.
I said this in previous meetings, and I apologize. I was a planner for 40 years. I've dealt with all types of plans. The argument I'm hearing, or the discussion that I'm hearing, is why 25? And how do we get 25 years? Because it's generational. I now hear an argument about 15 years. Why 15 years? And if I go back to what David says down here about how do I argue the point with anybody who's asking me the question, why 15 years versus 25 years? I don't have legislation, I don't have statutory requirements, I don't have anything. It's based upon the judgment of this body and previously to the judgment of a former Plan Commission, going back, 10 years ago? And even though that vote was, I believe it was 4-4, that's what everybody's hung their hat on for all of this time, 25 years. It's in the ordinance right now. That's what the ordinance says today. So why 15 years? I mean, I heard what the chamber said, noted, and I heard what the BED said, and I noted, but why 15 years? And so why do I want to change it? I mean, you had a sovereign body, a Plan Commission, based upon judgment at the time, making an informed decision based upon the argument that was put in front of them. And that's what they came up with. We, this body, or not necessarily the new folks because they weren't part of the discussion before we formalized this ordinance, we spent an enormous amount of time talking about this. And as you can see, there's still not a common understanding. We do not have a common ground here yet on 15 versus 10 versus 25 versus anything, or doing away with it completely like BEDC suggested.
I would love.
Let me finish. Okay. And then you can. I mean, we've been talking about this for a long time. There are really very few instances with petitions that, in fact, this will even apply to. As we've discussed in our meetings, it's really a handful. And again, in most of those cases, they've been resolved by doing something other than a sliding scale. We're talking to onesies and twosies, and we're spending an enormous amount of time on something that was agreed to years ago. So I go back to why 15 versus 25? And I can't answer that question. But I have to rely upon the judgment of our predecessors and the discussions they had. And if you want to take and make it a different time frame, give me the argument other than, well, it makes sense because of. And I understood what you said. But there's other folks who think differently. and so we really don't have a consensus. And what's going to probably happen here is that because we continue to have this discussion, none of this is going to take and change. And we're going to go back to what the ordinance originally said that we approved back in December of last year. So why 15 versus 25?
Mr. Thomas, I have a motion, if you would entertain it.
I was just wanting to address kind of the, I thought
I don't want to hijack the meeting either, so I'm happy to make a motion, but I refer back to the chair for who speaks next, but yeah.
If you will, he wasn't saying names, but alluding. My reason is the difficulty we're having with the extending of sewer, and a lot of our focus with building out this ordinance, that was not an issue. It is an issue. That's my why. And if we were able to kind of build the ordinance out with the same expectations of how we were developing the county as we started the ordinance, as our predecessors developed this ordinance, I have already said, I don't think this would be that big of an issue. The fact that we don't know that, I feel like the 15 years creates a better balance. Now, as far as why 15 and 25, yes, but the reason I'm making is due to the fact that the sewer's not being extended. All of our ordinances contingent to septic or sewer, and they allow different types of lot sizes and developments and infrastructure. And I just think right now we could find a middle ground at that 15 years, and then if that becomes a bigger issue, we can readdress it, move it back. If we are able to, get the ability to have sewer again, then we could maybe move that back, because I do think the intention is pure, and I'm in support of that. That's why I've never said let's do away with it. So I just really wanted to make that clear, just based off of your comment. So,
David, can I say one thing?
Sure.
Can I say one thing?
Please, and then I need to go to my left.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
The whole issue of annexation. I'm just telling you, the whole issue of annexation for a lot of us who have been involved in that, and the whole issue of whether or not it's actually going to happen, and whether or not sewer is actually going to be extended outside the city limits, to me is a non-issue at this point in time. Let me finish. Because it is at this point in time. And what may or may not happen in the future can be addressed in the future. But that's not what we're talking about today. That's all.
All right, I'm going to go to my left again and see if anyone has any follow-up. Don't look to your left. Mr. Fields, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
No, I struggle with understanding the driver. I heard your point.
Got it.
I hear their points.
Mm-hmm.
I really have a hard time understanding it. The annexation thing, I don't understand that very much either. But does the 25-year thing, does that, tell the city of Bloomington, you don't have to worry about it? Would more development give them more encouragement to move some infrastructure? I don't know. It's a really big, hairy problem. I don't get it.
Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Reluctantly, I don't know the number either. I'm hearing two compelling arguments, both of them valid, and I suspect that's what happened the last time this was batted about in 2014 or whatever. I don't see the link between a farmer, let's say, someone who is a large landowner, selling off a portion of their property to automatically charging out and putting in an infrastructure, because we know that the cost of the infrastructure is exorbitant, even if all participants are willing to expand that infrastructure, which it appears not to be the case in today's climate. I'm thinking from a personal point of view, if I were to want to sell part of my property, I would like to have that option, which I do, obviously, and subdivide a portion of it. But as was pointed out by one of the other members, there's already limits in there as to what can be subdivided, how much can be subdivided, and how many times in a 25-year span or a 15-year span that can be replicated. So I think it is self-limiting to a degree. I'm still struggling with the number.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I think everything that's here, that's been presented, I support.
Okay. I'm just going to say that I think a good question is, if you say why 25, then the question why 15 comes up. I do think that if sewer services became available, we would be looking at the CDO anyway. So I'm not sure I would say, well, let's just prepare the way so that when sewer is available, it's, so I would, because we don't know where, and it may be a zone or a region, so it's not going to be everywhere, certainly. So I think I would want to wait and see where that is. I've not, to this day, heard any complaints from anybody, any property owner who has utilized the sliding scale and said, but I wanted to do this and I couldn't, and I wanted to do this later and I couldn't. I've never had anyone say that. And that's interesting because I'm sure I would have heard it. And I have not heard that yet. So that also makes me feel like this is a problem that actually doesn't exist, that we're uncomfortable with a number that I agree we should consider, readdress when infrastructure changes. Because one of the, and I do want to say this, I've said it before, and I'm so sorry for those who are hearing it again, that one of the reasons we went with this number back then is because this is about how often road infrastructure, transportation plans are made. And that's why. Because John Irvin used to talk about road sheds. Like you would talk about watersheds, he would talk about road sheds. And it was, how much road do you have and how many people can live on that road? And it was an interesting way to think about road sheds versus watersheds and other sheds. But anyway, that's also part of this mechanism here. And I just wanted to make sure y'all knew that. I don't know if you wanted Mr. Henry to...
Yeah, I still have a motion.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's changed since this discussion, but I will now actually, because in honor of Colonel Ferris's analysis that we don't want to be arbitrary and create another circular self-referencing date, and I hear the comments that were made. I've of course reviewed those transcripts as well, so it's interesting how I think all of us might be selecting what in the transcript we want to pull out as in terms of evidence or not evidence. I don't want to create another circular self-referencing random generational date here. So I'm going to motion to table this back to the ORC and direct staff to conduct an analysis that is not time-based, but maybe capability-based or use-based instead of time-based, and come back with recommendations on how to address this part of the CDO. So it's a motion to table and to address staff to investigate another way to do this other than a time-based approach, unless they can find a definition of generational that we can cite.
I'd be happy to go ahead and second that too, because I'm not going to support anything that we see today, which makes me feel like if we don't get a majority, it'll just come right back to us next month. This kind of goes in with some of your comments of giving it a little space to breathe.
Okay. So then it would go back to a smaller group and then back to the Plan Commission administrative with a new proposal and then back here.
That's
Okay.
my, that's my motion, because we can keep picking at years until we settle on one, but I think we need some data to back up our choices here. So back to the ORC to figure it out.
I could call.
And we have a motion and a second. Did you want to add anything or ask any questions? Please.
Some clarity there.
Sure, yeah.
Well, I guess
You're afraid of that.
it's just kind of going around and around.
Okay, so what it does is it would take it off of, this goes to the county commissioners next.
We don't
and when
change anything at all with this
Nothing,
vote.
everything
Right.
stays
Okay.
as it is while we go back to the drawing board, as it were, in the ORC. And I just want to make sure we're all on the same page here. We all understand. I know, Colonel Ferris. Okay. Any other comments, question, anything? Okay, great. Can we call a vote? Can we have a vote?
Please.
Just so we're clear, please restate what we're voting on.
It's a motion to table this item back to the ORC and direct staff to review capabilities or other basis for the rule, and to identify what a generation is for the purposes of this ordinance.
Okay. Could we do the December 8th ORC? Is that reasonable?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. All right, it's been moved and seconded to continue this item to the Ordinance Review Committee meeting date of December 8th. A vote yes is a vote to continue. John Enright Randolph?
Yes.
Scott Ferris?
No.
Rudy Fields?
Yes.
David Henry?
Yes.
Julie Thomas?
I'm going to be a no because I feel like we already did this. But I'm going to say no.
David Bush?
Yes.
Okay, motion fails 4-2.
I'm sorry, motion passed 4-2.
No, it has to be
It
majority.
did five. All right, I'm sorry. I'm going to go ahead and change my vote and say yes. We'll just,
So Julie Thomas?
just for the sake of moving on.
I appreciate
Okay.
it, thank you.
And for the sake of moving on,
We have one more item.
we'll just make it 6-0.
Okay, all right.
We're such an agreeable group. Building consensus, one vote at a time. Hey!
Okay,
All
so
right.
it's been continued to the Ordinance Review Committee meeting of December 8th.
Thank you all for being here. All right, so thank you. Do we need a quick break? Yeah, let's take 10 minutes, if that's okay with everyone. And we will come back at 8:10. Look at that, it's 8 o'clock. It's almost time to ring the bells. We'll come back at 8:10 for our last agenda item, which looks like a doozy, but it really isn't.
It's not. It'll
All
be
right.
quick. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to recall us back out of recess. And we are now on item 7, ZOA 25-6.
Okay, so this is a different amendment to the County Development Ordinance. This is more of the result of staff edits, as well as some of the House bills that have come down, particularly the one that's in relation to stormwater, House Bill 1037. So we are going to go through a series of amendments, and I'm going to do so quite quickly. They are mostly just corrections and things like that. But if there's anything you want to discuss more fully, I'll pause and I can do that. So on page 151 of the packet, we are keeping this table updated with each amendment. It's going to have a summary or revision history so that anyone that goes through the ordinance can see what changes have been made since its original adoption. I'll go ahead and take out for now the upper red text, which is regarding the sliding scale, but leaving the last column that you see in red here. This is a good summary of just what we're doing today, so we're changing some language. The language design standard does not show up in the Indiana code. It's only referred to as development standard. This is a requirement to just meet what the state code references instead of having our own version of that. And then we also have some changes and corrections to logging, urban area, and artificial lake or pond. This is as a result of the stormwater changes. Changes to fueling station parking minimums, removing the requirement for sidewalks if located near a moderate priority greenway corridor. That's something I want to talk about a little bit more in depth. And then we're also going to be seeing changes regarding reference to soil and water conservation versus natural resource conservation, and then some clarifying language throughout. So I'm going to go ahead and get started and go through these. So I won't go through each change to from design standard to development standard. It's sprinkled throughout the ordinance. So I will go ahead and start at the, just a note. So since the CDO is linked, whenever we do a Word to PDF, it keeps showing up that there are changes that are not. So if you actually look at the strike through on some of the text, it's not actually a change. I just want to point that out because it can't seem to get rid of that. But this is not a change, but it looks like we're changing a lot. So just as an FYI. The first substantial change is on page 204 of the packet. This is to the use artificial pond or lake. And like I mentioned, this is in regard to the transition of review for some of these things coming back to the planning department. They were transferred to stormwater, but then there was a House bill that said that they basically cannot do some of these reviews. Planning still retains the ability to review some of these things, so that's why these changes are the way that they are. So artificial pond or lake, it is a use in the use table. People want to build a pond or a lake. These are the standards for which they have to go about getting that review approved. We also have a change to the logging urban area. So this is taking out the applicability of stormwater doing that review because they're no longer, they do not have that in their ordinance any longer. So it is going to be solely with planning. I'll also note if you see an error of 0 and then a strikeout of the real chapter, that's not what we're proposing. We are proposing it stay chapter 817, not 0. So that's somewhat of an error. And then we found a spelling error, so we're going to fix that. Page 248, just site design items. And then this is an item I want to spend a little bit of time on. We are suggesting that for subdivisions, we remove one of the requirements for sidewalks. You saw tonight a few sidewalk waivers. We're realizing that adding in the reliance on the alternative transportation plan is causing people to have more requirements for sidewalks, which is good if in a place that makes sense. But we also realize that we need to update our alternative transportation plan map. The moderate priority greenway corridor, I'll just share the map right now. It was, I think, envisioned as more of a hopeful plan to come up with trails. It is the purple line. When we followed the purple line on most of these, it was, we think this was the 10 o'clock line. This might be a Duke Energy power line. This is following a creek bed, we believe, which would be all floodplain. And then there were just other lines that when you followed them on the aerial, they just didn't seem to follow consistently along a road exactly, or we just weren't sure what their purpose was, to be honest. They seem to be kind of floating lines. So we're recommending that the purple not be a requirement for subdivision, and that's something that's open for discussion. There was a correction needed. There was a error based on the linking, so we just fixed that under section A here. So we're going to be fixing that. Section under the eco chapter, we did have some disturbance of 0.75 acres as a requirement for a stormwater grading permit. And right now we are going to keep that language just more in line with what the state code requires. So sites may also require a stormwater grading permit and refer them to chapter 761 to make that determination. And then also, under the agricultural activities for Eco and Lake Lemon, we originally had the Natural Resource Conservation Service as preparing conservation plans for us. This year, we had somebody who wanted to start a new agricultural activity in the Lake Lemon area, and they went to Natural Resource Conservation Service and said, unless you enroll in a federal program, we cannot help you with the conservation plan. Soil and Water stepped up and said that they would be able to help us and that they're used to doing these types of plans. So we've happily changed it to Soil and Water, who can handle both people in federal programs or people that just have smaller programs just starting out. So that's a change. And then the change here for 394 is that this looks like a lot of change, but again, it's the linking. We're not changing the code references. The only thing that's changing here is that we added a sentence for the exception under the eco area, and it says, in evaluating the request for an exception, the director shall consider the section below, which has been added as part of the CDO and was never linked to say to look at that. So that's something that we want to fix just for clarity's sake. I'll make sure that I got that. Okay, and then under the policy for emergence of new sinkholes, again, we had to kind of create the language that just points people to chapter 761 instead of saying it did definitely require applicability under 761. And we're hopeful that with some future changes in the CSGP requirements that we can still review those items, but just for now, this helps us in the interim to be compliant with state code requirements. And then we had a word error here. We changed preliminary plat to primary plat. And then we have had some interest in a new administrative subdivision type that we've created, which is one that is exclusively to create a parcel for agricultural or conservation purposes. We wanted to make sure it was clear that you can create one new lot for a maximum of 2 lots included in the type G, the original lot, and then the one new lot, since that had been a common question in our office. And then
quick question on that, since you said, so that is already doable. This is just for clarity. Okay, thank you.
Yep. Under our chapter for site plan, plot plan, and certified plot plan, one of the listed requirements was a holdover from the prior ordinance, which was that the surveyor or the person had to put down the nature and intensity of the operations involved with the project. Under the CDO, we no longer assign automatic intensity of use to the use table. So that's something we decided needed to be cleaned up. And then we made 2 quick changes to the definition section. Under commercial mixed use, we used to have a separate use for shopping center, but now we find that that can be combined under just commercial mixed use. So even though this is out of alphabetical order, what we've done is indent shopping center and say that it includes this definition and use here. And it's green text, which means it was just moved. It didn't actually change any substantially. It didn't change substantially. Okay, oops. The last definition change is in regard to sewer. We wanted to make sure we reference sewer because it's stated both ways in the code. So under the state code, they refer to sewers as sanitary sewage system, which we have a definition for as well. So we're just pointing people to the right definition. So with that, that's all I have. I can take any questions.
Great, thank you so much. Any comments or questions from my left? From my right?
Just really brief, and it's about the multimodal transportation plan. That is completely outdated. We have built trails that don't even show up on that. Another, I think, reason why we should kind of try to start looking at that a bit quicker is like, whenever you're talking about regional connectivity, if there are places, destinations that are mentioned within our transportation plan or alternative transportation plan, it could significantly help increase their opportunity to secure different types of grant and funding to build out their trails. We encountered that just recently. I kind of reached out to see if there was any other language, but it would be nice to update that, even if it's just updating the map but not the entire plan. I know that's just adding more work to your table, but it's been a long time, and I guess I'll just repeat myself once. We have built trails that don't even show up on that map, so outside of that, I'm in support.
Questions? Okay. I think that is something that came out of highway in the past with the consultant.
Transportation Alternatives Plan actually was a group that we hosted. It was a committee.
Okay.
But we've since created the Internal Trails Group, which includes a lot of members. So I do have it on the agenda to start there, and hopefully we could we could get some direction on where to go from there.
Because we'd have to get some consultant money. I just think it goes to a consultant. I just don't know that it's something that we do in-house.
It would, yeah.
In these things, you know?
Right. It would have to be passed by resolution as well. It's not just something we could do at staff level to fix.
Right. Yep. Thank you. All right. Any public comment on this item? There's no one here in the Nat U Hill room, but anyone on Teams? Raise your hand to be ready. Okay. Seeing none. Can someone make a motion, please? Thank you, sir.
I'll try.
You'll be fine.
With respect to Zulu Oscar Alpha 25-6, which is the amendment to the CDO, item 13, I motion that we take a positive recommendation to the county commissioners on this item.
Second.
Are we waiving the final hearing?
And we also want to say it's late. I don't have it. It's not in my notes. And we waive and also to waive the final hearing.
All right.
Second stands.
Excellent. Anybody have other comments or questions?
Where is that?
Okay. Great. Please call the roll.
So that's been moved and seconded to send a positive recommendation to the county commissioners and waive the final hearing for ZOA-25-6, which is an amendment to the county development ordinance, primarily staff edits, item number 13 from the prioritization list. A vote yes is a vote to send a positive recommendation. Tron Enright Randolph?
Yes.
Scott Ferris?
Yes.
Rudy Fields?
Yes.
David Henry?
Yes.
Yes.
Julie Thomas?
Yes.
David Bush?
Yes.
Motion is approved, 6-0. I do have two quick reports.
Please.
So first is that we were notified by the Purdue Extension Office that they have appointed a member, Joe Vandeventer, as a temporary appointee that's allowed under state code to be the position for the Purdue Extension in the vacancy of that position. So that position has not been filled by Purdue, so the Extension Board is able to offer a temporary fill of that position. They say that they approved that vacancy position on October 15th, and according to Purdue Extension, it would be valid until December 31st. Of 2026. So we hope to invite, we invited Joe to this meeting. He wasn't able to make it, so we hope to see him at a future plan commission, and yeah, from there. And then the other announcement that we have is that we'd like to let you know that one of our planner twos, Ann Christelius, has taken another position, so she has put in her 2 weeks with the county. Just want to spend a minute just thanking Ann for her service to the county in her tenure of 6.5 years. She's done quite a bit to streamline our department, keep us organized. Her GIS skills have been invaluable. She's also earned her AICP in that time period and just helped us all with a lot of different projects here and there. So just really a good team player, and wish her well in her next position. So her last day will be November 5th.
Do you think we could get a card and have the Plan Commission sign it and circulate it? I think that would be nice.
I will see you on the admin meeting the day before her last, so I can do that.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yes, I do want to wish Ms. Crecelius well on all of her future endeavors and thank her for her time here. We've all learned a lot from each other.
And I will be seeking a request from the council to fill the position since we're under a current hiring freeze. So we will be trying to seek approval of that.
Everybody turn to your right.
I already reacted to.
Okay, just adding it in there. All right, thank you.
All right,
Mr. Schilling, did you have anything for us?
I do not.
Oh, lovely. Well, thank you all for a scintillating discussion, an interesting meeting, and we are adjourned.